Hey friends, welcome back to Homestead on a Prayer. We're out here on my deck today on this kind of chilly March day because I have a really exciting project and I decided it'd be really fun to share it with you guys. So most likely you have seen these beautiful tower planters. I know they're all over YouTube, all over the gardening community. This is called a Greenstalk. And I'm not affiliated with Greenstalk or anything like that, but I am growing in a limited space and I've seen so many people growing these Greenstalk tower gardens. They seem so cool. So I've been wanting to get one for a while. They recently did have a big sale, so I did end up. So I actually got two. Today we're going to set up the first one. So this is going to be my first time setting this up, so I'm going to be kind of figuring it out as I go. And we're also going to plant some seeds in it. As I said, not affiliated with them. I have no idea how this is going to work. It's a little bit of an experiment, but I was really tempted by the idea of being able to grow so many plants in such a small footprint. If you've been following along my channel for a while, you know that I am fairly limited on space, and so anything that can basically help me grow vertically and use more vertical space as opposed to ground space is something that I am all about. So this one that I have here is called the leaf Greenstalk. It's called that because it's meant to grow leafy plants. So this one has more tiers with a little bit smaller growing space in each one. And the idea is that in there you can grow plants that have a smaller root system. So I'm planning to grow mostly plants like lettuce and arugula in this. And then when summer hits and that arugula starts to bolt, I'm probably going to pull that out. Maybe some of the lettuces that bolt on the early side too, we'll pull those out and probably replace them with something like basil. So I have my instructions here that came in the mail with my planter. I've read through this, so I am hopefully going to be able to figure out how to get this set up. I'm really excited about it. So let's get planting. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up this water tube. I got this spinner base because I really wanted to be able to access all sides of the Greenstalk, and that seemed really useful to me. So it looks like this is supposed to attach to this hole in the spinner here. And I think the idea with this is that extra water will drain from the Greenstalk into these holes in the spinner, and then I can use this tube to direct the water off my deck. So we'll set this up with the tube pointing that way. So I think this is definitely going to make things a little bit easier. I will say I do wish this tube was a little bit longer because I think I want to have this a little farther back. I think that you can buy extra tubing, but this is just what came with it. I didn't think to buy extra of that. So for now, we're going to make do with what we have. So I set up a heavy-duty trash bag here, which I'm going to use kind of as a tarp. I'm going to fill the layers of the Greenstalk on this bag so that any extra soil I can just basically sweep up and put into the Greenstalk rather than having to deal with sitting on my deck. So for potting soil, I got some of this Happy Frog here. This is actually what the Greenstalk company recommends. So I got a couple bags of that. I also have some of my homemade potting soil. Basically, I didn't have enough of my homemade potting soil to fill the entire Greenstalk. So what I'm planning to do is kind of mix it 50-50 or so between my homemade potting soil and the Happy Frog potting soil. So I'll just kind of add a little bit to each layer and fluff it up as we go. I'm going to fill the layers one at a time on this black plastic here and hopefully be able to keep the mess to a minimum. So here I've got the first layer ready to fill. One trick I've seen people do online is to tape up this hole while you're filling it. The watering system that Greenstalk uses basically goes through this center hole here. That's how it drains onto all of the different layers. So I want to make sure not to get soil in that. So I'm just going to tape it up and then I'll take that off before I actually stack the layers together. So I've got the first layer here. This is my homemade potting soil. You can see it's nice and fluffy and rich. I'm just going to start by filling this maybe a third to halfway full with this potting soil here. And I am glad that I decided to plug this hole because as you can see, it's already getting soil around it. All right, I'm going to add in a layer of this Happy Frog, and this looks like really nice, high quality potting soil too. I've never used it before because honestly it is a little bit pricey, but I have heard great things about it. And the nice thing about container gardening, at least in my experience, is that you don't have to completely replace your soil every year. what I like to do instead is just amend the soil every year. I like to add a fresh layer of compost to all of my containers. And then, since you're growing in containers, you probably will need to fertilize as the season goes on. But I find that as long as I do that, I don't have to use fresh soil every year. So even though this soil is a fairly significant expense at the beginning, it's going to be, for the most part, a one-time expense, which at least that's how I justified it in my mind. So at the end of the season, or as the season goes on, we'll see how well these plants do and see if I think it's worth it. So you are supposed to fill this completely to the top, which as you can see I haven't done yet, but I want to mix these soils together and really get them incorporated while I've still got a little room to work. And then once I've got them all incorporated, we'll top it off with a little bit more soil. This nicely filled. I think this looks really good. So I have these gray discs here. They're supposed to be one for each level. And when you put them in there, you want to make sure that these little watering holes here, one is lined up with each of these pockets. So we'll get this in place, and then I'm going to plant some seeds. Now it's definitely going to be a little bit of a less satisfying before and after. Since I'm planting seeds, the Greenstalk is going to be pretty much empty looking, and you won't really get that satisfying wow factor of having the whole thing full of plants. But I am going to start seeds in that, and then hopefully we will be able to really get that exciting after as the season goes on. So in my planter, I have a few different seeds I'm planning to grow in here. I think this one's going to be mostly lettuces. I picked out, I want to say, these 7 varieties that I'm planning to grow in here. I've got oak leaf lettuce, butter crunch lettuce, Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce, black-seeded Simpson, Freckles lettuce, super red romaine, and Merlot lettuce. I think I got all the way through. I'm not sure if I said Merlot twice. So I think what I'm going to do, I can plant 42 total. I'm going to put actually multiple seeds in each pocket because I'm going to be growing some lettuce. I'm also going to be growing some arugula, things like that don't take up a lot of space. So I can put a couple seeds for each plant in each pocket, but there's 42 different pockets, I want to say, I think. Yeah, there's 6 in each one, and there's 7 layers, so that's 42 pockets. So I'm planning to do, I have 7 lettuces here. I think I'm going to do 3 pockets with each of these lettuces for 21. I'm also going to do some arugula and probably a couple other greens. I was debating about maybe putting some alyssum flowers in there as well, just to give it a little pop of color. We'll see how I feel once I get started planting these. So I'm just going to pull out everything I'm planning to plant. I'm going to put some slow bolt arugula in here and some of this. This is one of my favorite Asian greens that I really should learn how to pronounce. And then I think I want to do some type of pak choy. I think I'll try this Shanghai green choy. Maybe some tatsoi too. And then I'll see, once I get started, I'll see if I want to add some alyssum into that as well. So I'm going to start planting in this pocket here. I'm just putting a little bit of tape there. I'm not going to worry about marking anything that I'm planting in here, but I just want to make sure that I know when I get to the end and I know which pockets I've already planted. So I think I'm basically going to do lettuce in every other pocket. So let's start with this oak leaf lettuce here. So the disc takes up about this much room. I'm just going to leave this here, not permanently in place. So just put it there so I know. It makes a good holder for my seeds too. So I'll probably put maybe 3 or 4 lettuce seeds in here. Then I'll move on to the next pocket here and we'll put some arugula in there. Same thing, I'm just going to put maybe 3 or 4. I might do a few more arugula because arugula is a little bit of a smaller plant. I think the official guideline by the company is to do, when you have smaller plants like this, to do 3 per each pocket. So I ended up doing 3 lettuce seeds. There were a couple of the holes where 2 seeds dropped in, so I can always thin out an extra seedling if I need to. Arugula, I think they also say to do 3, but in my experience, arugula plants are pretty small. So I might do a couple extra arugula plants, maybe 5 seeds or so. I'm also planning to harvest these as baby greens, not as full-size heads. So if you're planning to harvest as full-size heads, you wouldn't want to use as many seeds as I'm using. So I'll just put some arugula seeds in this next pocket here. Then next we'll do lettuce again. I'm going to do butter crunch. So we'll put 3 butter crunch seeds in the next pocket here. Or 4 came out, so we can thin one out. Assuming that they all germinate. Next, I'm going to do a couple of these seeds. Next, we'll do some black-seeded Simpson in this pocket here. And in this final pocket, I will put 3 seeds for, I've got this Shanghai green pak choi. So depending on when I harvest this might actually get a little bit large to have 3 in one pocket, but I can always harvest 2 of them as baby greens too, and then let the 3rd one get a little larger. So now that I've got the seeds planted, I can go ahead and take the tape off of this. And then I just want to make sure to line up the irrigation holes with each of these pockets and set this disc in place. So at the base of each tier, they have these little, I don't really know what you call this. This is supposed to interlock with the top of the lower tier. So I'm going to install, as I install the tiers, I'm going to make sure that these lock in place. From what I have heard from people, as I said, I have no actual experience with Greenstalk myself. What I have heard from people is that these are really stable and they really do well even in windy conditions as long as they are interlocked properly. You want to make sure it's on a really stable, just a stable surface, and that these are locked in place properly so it's not leaning at all. So I am going to make a point to do that. So I'll see if I can show you here. This one is empty just for easy maneuverability. But I'm going to see if we can line this up and just see how it locks in place, just like that. So the key would just be to get all 6 of those locks to lock in place at once. So behind me, I've got another layer that's all full. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best to install that on the original layer. So I found that once I got it lined up properly, you know, the weight of the soil really does most of the work for you. So the key is just, from my very limited experience, just to line it up properly and then just make sure that it locks in place. So you can see I've got all the layers of my planter all installed. The last thing I need to do is to put this water reservoir on the top, and again, this has the little holes inside that I'm going to line up with each pocket on the top layer. Basically, the idea of this and what is supposed to make this planter a lot more user-friendly than a lot of others is the watering system. So supposedly, by putting this on the top, or supposedly once I have this all set up and put this on the top, I'm supposed to be able to water only from the top, and it's supposed to distribute everything, distribute the water evenly to all the different pockets, so that in theory you don't have to go around watering each individual pocket. So as the season goes on, I'm going to update you about how well that works and how happy I am with this. But so far, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. I really am glad that I got the spinner base. You can see it rotates nice and evenly. So I think that because the spot on my deck where I have it doesn't really get it doesn't get full sun all day, that's okay for things like lettuces, but the ones in the back here against my house would probably suffer if I didn't have the ability to rotate it so easily, so I can make sure that everything gets a fair chance to be in the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and install the top, and then we will water this for the first time and see how it works. So I think I actually planted this top layer a little bit too full, so I can't get this to really sit in. So I'm going to remove a little bit of the dirt from the center of this top layer, and then we'll see if it works better. All right, so removing a little bit of the soil did the trick. You can see I've got it nicely installed now, and then I'm just going to water it from this reservoir here. I will definitely need more water than these 2 pitchers. That was just to get me started. Now, just as a note, the information packet that came with this did say that if you're starting from seeds, which I am, you may need to mist or water the individual pockets until the seeds sprout. I think that it's cool enough out here that once I get this water really moistened, I'm not going to have to worry about it drying out, at least not in the next few days. If that does become an issue, then I will water the individual pockets until the seeds sprout. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today and setting up my Greenstalk. I'm really excited to see how it does. I know there's a lot of hype out there about this particular planter and this brand, so I am really excited to try it. I did get, as I said, I got 2. This is the leaf planter with the smaller pockets. I also got one with larger pockets, which is the original size, and I'm going to be experimenting and trying some plants like peppers in that one. So we won't plant that one until it gets a little warmer. It's definitely too cold for peppers here in Connecticut right now. So I'm really hoping that this is going to add to my growing space, add to my container garden. So I'm hoping it does really well. And I hope you will come back and hang out with me again and see how these do. I'll definitely keep you updated as the season goes on. So I hope you're having a great day, and I can't wait to see you soon. I'll see you next time.